You checkmated 2 warlocks. Say that with me one more time, because it needs to land in your bones before we go any further. You checkmated 2 warlocks. Not 1, 2. 2 separate people who each tried in their own way behind your back to reach into your life and pull energy out of you like you were a battery they were entitled to plug into. And here is the part that's about to give you chills. They thought they were winning. They thought you didn't see it. And this whole time, you were 3 moves ahead. And karma was already loading up in their background, waiting for its turn to step into the board. That's what this is about today. Not 1 villain, 2, working separately, working together, feeding off each other's failure, and still walking away with nothing, while you walked away lighter, sharper, and more powerful than you were before they even ever showed up. I want you to actually sit with that word, checkmate, for a second. Because it's not just a cute phrase for the title. Checkmate means the king cannot move. It means every escape route is closed. It means the other side didn't lose because they got unlucky. They lost because the whole board had already been arranged against them, and they just didn't know it yet. That's exactly what happened here. These 2 people came for your energy, thinking you were an easy target, easy square to take. They didn't know they'd already walked into a trap that you built without even trying, just by being who you are. So, let's talk about how this actually played out, because I know a lot of you lived some version of this exact story, and you didn't even have language for it until right now. The first one wasn't subtle. This one was loud about it, almost proud of it, like they wanted credit for the chaos. As soon as they decided to start doing the strange stuff people do when they are trying to destabilize you. The mixed signals, the guilt trips, the little digs disguised as jokes, the sudden coldness followed by sudden sweetness. You clocked it almost instantly. You sat there thinking, do you really believe I don't see what you are doing right now? But instead of confronting it loudly, you let them keep going. You wanted to see how far they'd actually take it. And because you are good. Yeah, you are good because your face doesn't always tell the truth about what your mind already knows. They mistook your silence for cluelessness. The less you reacted, the bolder they got. The more you smiled and nodded, the sloppier they became, until this person wasn't even bothering to hide what they were doing anymore. They got comfortable. They got careless. And the moment you finally looked them dead in the eye and let them know without saying a single word, I see exactly what you are. Something in them cracked. You didn't scream, you didn't argue. You just stopped. You pulled away, cut the cord, walked out of the room they thought they controlled. That's when the panic set in. Because now they had to explain your absence to everyone else, and the story they told was never the truth. It was something like, they just cut me off for no reason, or they got weird out of nowhere. You have heard that before, haven't you? That specific flavor of a lie people tell when they got caught and cannot admit it. They know exactly what they did. They just cannot survive people knowing it too. But here is the thing about someone who's been outplayed. They don't just walk away quietly. Their ego needs a second act. It needs some way to get the control back that they lost the moment you saw through them. So, enter the second one. This one is different, quieter, smarter about hiding it, or at least they thought they were smarter about hiding it. You had to pay closer attention this time because on the surface nothing looked wrong. If you tried to explain it to somebody outside the situation, of course, it would have sounded like nothing, like you were imagining things, like you were being dramatic over small stuff that didn't add up to anything on paper. That's the exact trap covert manipulation sets. It's designed to sound unbelievable out loud, even when it's completely real while you are living inside it. So, you learned fast that talking about it to other people wasn't going to help you. It would only make you look unstable, while this person kept smiling in every room like they had nothing to hide. So instead, you did something most people do not have the discipline to do. You went quiet. You watched. You gathered the pieces yourself instead of waiting for someone else to validate what your gut already knew. And you found out this second one wasn't even a stranger to the first one. They knew each other. They were working both sides, pretending to be your ally while quietly feeding information, sympathy, or straight up encouragement to the person who'd already tried and failed to destabilize you. That's called triangulation. By the way, using a third party to make you feel isolated, confused, and outnumbered, so you doubt your own read on reality. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book, in psychology books, and it only works on people who don't trust themselves. Which meant it was never going to work on you, because somewhere along the way, through everything you've survived, you learned to trust your own knowing over everyone else's performance. Manipulation? Yeah, manipulation is expensive. You know that. It takes energy to keep a lie balanced, to keep two people convinced of two different versions of you, to keep the whole performance from collapsing. And the second you started pulling your energy back, the second you stopped giving them your attention, your reactions, of course, your explanations, your access, they felt it immediately. That's what silence does to people who are used to feeding off your noise. They tried to pull you back into the game. They wanted the drama. They wanted you chasing clarity, chasing answers, chasing them. And you didn't bite. You didn't need the full story to know something was off. You just felt it. And you removed yourself, clean and quiet, before either one of them could finish whatever plan they thought they were running. And that's when something almost funny happened. Let me focus. Two people who probably don't even like each other, who were never really loyal to each other in the first place, suddenly had to become best friends in defeat. Because misery loves company and failure loves an alibi. They started conforming each other, rationalizing what happened, because probably telling each other some story where you are the villain and they are the victims, because that's easier to live with than the truth, which is that neither one of them could touch you the way they thought they could. Let me paint this picture for you in a way that lands differently. Imagine someone trying to secretly siphon gas from your car in the middle of the night. They think they are being clever, creeping around with their little hose, convinced you are asleep and oblivious. But what they don't realize is that you have upgraded to a high-tech security system that they just tripped the moment that they stepped onto your driveway. The checkmate isn't just you stopping them. It's the universe locking the gate while they are still inside your property. Still holding the hose, still thinking they got away with something. They thought they tried to play a game in your house without realizing you own the board, the pieces, and the rules. You don't even have to lift a finger. The universe is handling the paperwork for their consequences. They really thought they were playing checkers, but you were playing chess. And here is the thing about chess. It's not about reacting to what your partner just did. It's about anticipating what they are going to do 3 moves from now. That's what you did, even if you didn't consciously realize it at the time. Your energy has its own internal radar system, a spiritual security protocol that most people never bother to install because they don't think they need it. But you've been through enough to know that people don't always come with good intentions. So you build your defenses quietly, without fanfare, without announcing to the world that you are no longer an easy target. And that silence was your greatest weapon. And underneath all of it, both of them are asking the same question, even if they never say it out loud. How did this person outsmart us in the game we didn't even tell them we were playing? How did they see it before we even finished setting it up? The answer is simple, and beautiful. And it's the whole reason we're here today. You do not need to enjoy games to know how to survive them. You don't need to seek out conflict to know how to end it clean. Somewhere along your life, through things you didn't ask for, you were trained, maybe painfully, I think it was painfully, to recognize when someone's energy toward you isn't honest. And once you have that radar, it doesn't turn off. It just gets quieter and sharper the older you get. Now let's zoom out, because I want you to understand why people like this show up in the first place, and why it's never really about you being unlucky in love or unlucky in friendship. People who try to pull energy from you, and I mean that literal, not just emotionally, they don't come into your life randomly. They come in at very specific moments. Either you're in a stable place, standing fully in who you are, in your life, in your peace, and you are at the lowest point you've ever been, running on empty, quietly begging the universe for anything that looks like relief. And that second version of you, tired, isolated, doubting yourself, craving to be seen and touched and chosen, that's the version certain people are drawn to. Because that version is easiest to attack to. Not because you are weak, because you are open. There is a difference. Openness isn't a flaw. It's actual proof you are still capable of trusting, still capable of hoping, even after everything. But people who don't have their own light learn to find rooms where somebody else's light is shining, and they slide in close enough to warm themselves without ever contributing any of their own. Think about it like this. Some people are gifted, genuinely gifted. Some people can walk into a room and shift the temperature just by being present. Some people can say 10 words and completely change how another person feels about their entire day. Some people write something or sing something or speak something, and other human beings feel healed just from being on the receiving end of it. That's not an accident. That's a form of power, even if nobody ever taught you to call it that. And here is the uncomfortable truth. People who do not have that kind of power can still recognize it in someone else. They can see it even when you don't see it in yourself yet. And instead of building their own, some of them try to borrow yours, quietly, slowly, through closeness, through intimacy, through convincing you they are the missing piece, through making themselves so present in your life that separating from them starts to feel like separating from a part of yourself. That's the real thing. It's not dramatic. It's not always visible. Fraud. And it rarely looks like a crime while while it's happening. It looks like late night conversations that leave you more drained than before you had them. It looks like a relationship where their life keeps improving while yours quietly stalls out. It looks like opportunities suddenly opening up for them right around the same time you start feeling foggier, more anxious, less like yourself. It looks like giving. Yeah, it looks like you giving and somehow still being the one who ends up apologizing. Spiritual identity thief is real, but your soul has the ultimate encryption. The moment they touched your energy, they signed their own eviction notice. They tried to dim your light because they couldn't handle your glow. And when that didn't work, they tried to steal a sip from your cup. But they didn't know it was overflowing with protection. Your energy isn't just a resource. It's a VIP lounge. And they just got permanently blacklisted. You didn't even have to raise your voice or create a scene. You simply stopped playing their game, and the game ended on your terms. The checkmate happened the second they decided to cross your line. Everything after that was just them waiting to find out what you actually knew. Here's the thing about people who try to siphon your energy. They are always convinced they are the smartest person in the room, of course. They believe their plan is airtight and their manipulation is invisible, that nobody sees the strings they are pulling. But here's what they don't account for. The universe. The universe has a way of exposing what's hidden. Not always immediately, unfortunately. Not always dramatically, but eventually. And when that exposure happens, it doesn't just reveal their actions. It reveals their character, the lies they told, the people they triangulated, the versions of themselves they presented to different people to keep the whole operation running. All of it comes to light eventually. And when it does, there is no amount of realization or victim playing they can undo the truth. But here's what nobody tells you until you've lived through it enough times to finally learn the lesson. Nobody gets access to your energy without you opening the door. Let me stop here. That's not a guilt trip. That's actually the most empowering truth to this entire conversation. If someone got in, it's because some part of you in that specific season needed something they appeared to offer. Validation, comfort, company, destruction, proof that you were wanted. And that's human. That's not weakness. That's survival instinct doing exactly what it's designed to do when you're running low. The door only opens when you're depleted enough to leave it unlocked. Which means that the real work was never about becoming someone who can spot every manipulator on sight. The real work is about staying full enough, whole enough, rooted enough in who you already are. That the door simply doesn't need to be checked, because there is nothing standing outside it that can get in uninvited. And listen, I need you to hear this part clearly, because it matters more than the Warlock story itself. The reason you were able to see both of these people, the loud one and the quiet one, the obvious one and the covert one, is because some part of you had already started doing the work before they even arrived. You didn't wake up with this radar. You built it. Probably through heartbreak you didn't ask for. Probably through nights where you questioned your own sanity because someone convinced you your intuition was overreacting. probably through reactions, some reactions, relationships, friendships, situations that took more than than they ever gave you back. Every one of those experiences, as brutal as they were in the moment, was quietly sharpening the exact instincts that just saved you twice in a row. That's not a coincidence. That's not luck. That's earned. You paid for that awareness in real currency. Time, tears, trust you had to rebuild from scratch. And now it's yours forever. Nobody can take that take back from you, no matter how good their performance is. So, what happens now? What happens after you have checkmated two people who thought they had the upper hand? Karma. Karma. That's what happens. And I don't mean karma in some vague, it will come back around eventually kind of way. I mean karma in the very real, very observable way where people who spend their energy trying to take from others end up in a permanent state of lack. Because taking never actually fills anyone up. It just creates a temporary illusion of fullness that collapses the second the source is gone. The moment you walked away, clean, of course, quiet, done, you took their temporary supply with you. And now they're back to running on their own resources, which, let's be honest, were never enough to sustain them in the first place. That's why people like this so rarely thrive long term. That's why that's why the drama always seems to follow them into their next station, and then the next one, and after that. They are not being punished by some external force floating around in the sky. They are simply living the nature consequence of never having built anything real on their own. Karma didn't just knock on their door, it kicked it down. And the beauty of it is, you didn't have to do anything to make this happen. That happened. You just had to step out of their way and let their own choices catch up with them. They were digging a pit for you, only to fall into it themselves. Their secret plan just became a public lesson in humility. Not because you exposed them, but because their own actions exposed themselves. They were looking for a victim, but they accidentally woke up a warrior. Meanwhile, look at where you are. You didn't need to expose them publicly. You didn't need to revenge. You need revenge, confrontation, or a dramatic blow up to prove you were right. You just needed to see clearly and walk away clean. And that alone was enough to collapse the entire plan they thought they had. That's what real power looks like. It's not loud. It's not petty. It doesn't need an audience. It just quietly removes itself from situations that were never worthy of it in the first place, and lets the natural order handle the rest. And I want to say this gently because I know some of you are replaying names and faces right now, maybe more than two, maybe people who did this to you years ago, and you are only now understanding what actually happened. This isn't here to make you bitter. It's here to make you aware. There is a version of you sitting somewhere quiet on a random morning who feels a pull towards something, a project you haven't started, a version of yourself you hadn't fully stepped into, a voice you've been holding back, and then talks themselves right back out of it before lunch. That happens because somewhere along the way, someone taught you the wanting things loudly, being visible, being fully yourself, made you a target. And maybe it did for a while with the wrong people around you. But that doesn't mean it has to stay true. The goal was never to shrink yourself down so nothing can reach you. The goal is to become so rooted, so aware, so at home at your own skin, that the things which used to be able to reach you simply cannot find a way in anymore. And if they try, you see it before it even finishes forming. While they were obsessing over your life, you were busy living it. That's the secret they will never understand. They were so focused on what you had, what you were building, what you were becoming, that they forgot to build themselves for themselves. And now, here you are. Still standing, still growing, still becoming. And they are left trying to figure out where it all went wrong. The battle you didn't even know you were in is already won. So here's where we'll end. Two people came for your energy secretly, behind your back, thinking you'd never notice, thinking you'd stay confused long enough for them to finish what they started. And instead, you saw both of them clearly, moved without needing to explain yourself, and let the natural consequences of their own choices catch up to them without lifting a finger. That's not luck. That's not even real strategy. Not in the way they think it was. That's just what happens when the person finally, fully knows who they are. The board looks different once you know your own worth. Every move somebody else makes against you gets slower, clumsier, easier to see coming, because you are no longer playing from a place of confusion. You are playing from a place of clarity. And clarity is undefeated. So if you are listening to this and something in your chest just went quiet and warm at the same time, that's recognition. That's your own story looking back at you. And I want you to walk away from this knowing exactly what you already proved. Nobody gets to take what you haven't offered. Nobody gets to stay once you've seen them clearly, and nobody, no matter how many people they recruit or how many lies they tell about you afterward, gets to out-move a person who has finally learned their own worth. You checkmated two warlocks. Let that be the last thing they ever get to say about you. And the first thing you finally say about yourself. Out loud. Without apology, without shrinking, and without even ever needing anyone else's permission to believe it. Take a breath. The battle you didn't even know you were in is already won. And you are not just lucky. You are protected by a force they cannot even comprehend. That force is you. That force is you.